welcome back to the State of Healthcare podcast, or the SOH as we're calling it. Last season, we learned about things from the health provider's perspective. So we learned about our system and kind of some of the frustrations of why it's not necessarily broken, right? It's just doing what it says. We treat and treat. We don't necessarily try to prevent illnesses. We don't try to be proactive for patients. So unfortunately, what we've led to is a system that's not necessarily servicing or providing the actual care that it's supposed to be doing in the first place. This season, we're going along from the journey as the patient perspective. So I'd like to kind of combo. If you haven't listened to season 1, always go on back. But what we're going to be learning is what can you do as a patient? So here we're going to be exploring various conditions, some common, some not so common, and what the people have gone through on their journeys from here. So join us this season as we learn what you can do as a patient to take your own healthcare into your hands in the state of healthcare. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the State of Healthcare. I'm here with Audrey.
Hi.
And so again, we've been exploring just a lot of different conditions and things like that, everything from common to not so common. But again, today we're actually going to explore a little bit of the world of sciatica, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard, either experienced, unfortunately, or heard about, or Googled about, or things like that. So just kind of like always, I'm going to let Audrey tell her story.
Um, so my name's Audrey, and my journey with sciatica started a few years ago, about 5 years ago. I was like sitting weird on a plane, like leaned back with my legs crossed, and I sneezed, and I like felt something like at that moment in my like lower hips, which I now know that airline seats are the
Not
most
safe for
forgiving.
humans.
Yeah. And I just kind of toughed it out. I was going through a divorce at the time, and then COVID happened, and I work in healthcare myself, so that was crazy for its own reasons. And then I moved here in 2022 and started working inpatient healthcare. And when I'm working, I typically average about 1,000 steps an hour. And I started having a symptom that really scared me where my foot was dropping. And I knew that that could be like a neurological, like can happen with like Parkinson's and MS and stuff like that. So it really scared me. And I saw my primary care doctor, and she determined that it was more likely from sciatica because I had pain. It would happen at the end of a long shift. So, even still, if it happens, it's at like the end of my 3 long days. But so that was what was kind of my first red flag. And then I'd always done a lot of road trips, usually like 12-hour road trips, and I would only stop a couple times. And I started driving to California to see my family, which is like 6 hours away, and I was having to stop like the same amount that I had in 12-hour drives previously to stretch. And so that for me was kind of, I think when I started coming here, that I was like, I'm having this like foot drop, I'm having to stretch in the car every couple hours, and it was really past the point of just like being a pain. It was impeding with my life.
And so again, for people, sciatica is basically the breakdown of
Oh, sorry.
oh no, you're totally fine. So it's basically pinching of that nerve. So a lot of times there's some issues just medically, like is it a disc issue? Is the nerve getting pinched somewhere else? So somewhere along the line, your sciatic nerve, which basically innervates your whole leg, gets pinched off. So you can have pain, you can have numbness, you can have tingling, you can have loss of like motor control, like your foot. But it affects a lot of people. So I'm not saying like, oh, you had a common thing, but it does affect a lot
Yeah.
of people. So,
Yeah, it does. I
and
always think when I see people carrying like little cushions into work, I'm like, oh, I wish you would go to physical. You don't have to bring a cushion into your 12-hour shift. You could, but it affects, it's really common, I think, especially for people who are a little bit more active and a little bit older too.
And then for you, you were also like, again, not really, but you do a lot of activities, a
Yeah.
lot of things. So I think because you were trying to work with those,
Yeah.
that's when you got referred over.
Yeah, exactly. So doing pole and aerial arts and dance and contortion, that was where I was really seeing some limitations as far as not even just like pain, but things that I physically couldn't do. And now I've since learned that like supporting the areas and the muscles like around my sciatic nerve, like my lower core and my glutes and my legs can be really helpful.
Now, had you ever done physical therapy prior to that? Like,
No.
okay. So this is your first PT exam.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to
Yeah.
ruin it, but like
Yeah, no, this was my first first time ever going to physical therapy.
Okay. And then you also did a good job of like modifying your footwear. You do a lot of really good stretching on your road trips. You are very good with your warm-ups and your cool downs. So again, it's those modifications and some of the episodes we talked about, like, here's what you've been diagnosed with. Here is how you have, like, again, you have this and your body tends to, like, again, sometimes you'll have those sciatic flare-ups. Like, how do you manage it so you really don't get those?
Yeah. I think rest is really important. Taking baths is like really important for me. I use my car seat warmer as just like I use a heating pad. I have one that I wear like as a robe. But I think doing all of that, I had shared this with a few people, but I had a cousin who's my age and I'm in my early 30s who had a child recently. And when she's an endurance athlete, she does like triathlons and marathons and all this stuff. And she had been kind of like down on herself because as she got farther into her pregnancy, obviously she wasn't able to perform the same way that she had. And she posted like on her Instagram story this kind of like moment she had realized that rest was productive too. And in my head I was like, oh, because she's pregnant. And then I was like, no, because she's like a person, that like rest is a productive act for me, for like Olympic athletes, for people who have like really hard mental jobs. Rest is and even I rolled my ankle recently, and I think it was because I have been training super hard and I had just gotten off of working overtime, and my body just kind of gave out. So I think that's something that's really important for me.
And that's also one of the hard things, right? We always talk to the importance of like getting up and moving and doing activities, but a lot of times it is also planning. Like I just talked to someone about their rheumatoid arthritis, and it was like when she knows she's going to have a flare up or when she sees these certain things, she modifies her activities, and then she like makes sure that she takes the time to let her body actually repair. So I think it's so hard because we're either like where we're stuck sitting 20 hours a day, or we're in the world where we go, go, go. And we're like, but I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. And then we don't actually rest. And then you aren't able to do this because you never took the time to rest.
Yeah. And I think too, like, at least for me, like coming to physical therapy has helped like with that aspect too. Like for me, it's not just like, oh, well, I come here and we do these like physical exercises. It's like whenever I'm going to travel, we literally like plan out like when am I going to stretch, and like I'll be the person at the airport like doing yoga in the waiting area. But I think it has been important for me like to have that ability to kind of like listen to my body and have someone to bounce off of like what is going on.
So there's 2 points on that. So Audrey won't say, but she's actually probably one of my really, nothing against all the other patients, but like really good with her instructions for home. So I can always trust that she's going to do the things. Like you just actually won a gold medal in a whole competition.
Yes,
so
I did.
she warmed up, she cooled down appropriately, she stretched on the car trip, she came home, and then we even discussed today, like, you could go to a class, but it's probably more important for you to rest tonight. And like, so, and then the other thing, because people I think sometimes think physical therapy is just exercising, just like that point is sometimes physical therapy is just education. Like, how do I sit here? What does your desk look like? What kind of shoes do you need to wear? What stretches should you do on your trip? So sometimes that's probably, if not more important than like, yeah, core exercise is always important, but like,
well, I think too, like for me, I had a lot of, I think, like self-limiting beliefs of like, oh, I could never, do this because I'm not strong enough, or I don't look this certain way, or I have pain every now and then. And I think that from coming to physical therapy and like setting goals and learning my body better, things have felt more accessible to me, even in like whole classes where whenever we have a competition, you learn like the same routine for months. So then when you start going to a class again and learning new stuff, it's kind of hard because your brain is like, no, we are going to do that same thing we just did. And when that's happened in the past, I've gotten kind of down on myself of like, oh, why can't I learn this? Why can't I learn this? But now I think I do have more of a growth mindset of like, I can do this first part of it, and that can be like what I focus on, and knowing that like I'm building those muscles and that it'll be better eventually, but not letting those like self-limiting beliefs come in too.
No, and that's perfect because again, you did just come back from winning the gold, and then you did a class and it was great. Like you accessed all these skills, and then even that's like in the PTOs we do things. Sometimes we just break down a move and you work this, and then we start to build the muscles and the conditioning from there.
I think too, at least for me, it's helpful. I'm gonna sound like old, but I feel like in this day and age, like just with the internet and how much information is out there, especially if you do have like even not even if you have anybody who follows you on Instagram, they're gonna be like, oh, you should do it like this, you should do it like that. You're gonna hurt yourself. You're doing this wrong. And I have friends who post like the comments that because everybody has an opinion, and it's easy for people to sit and say things, but it's really valuable to have somebody who like knows my body and knows what my struggles are and be like, I read this online. Is this something that's like accurate? It's kind of nice to have that, because that was when before I came, I was starting to get like cushions and all of these things. And then now I know that those are really just like band-aids for the problem.
Right.
So I think it's helpful when you do have like a complex disorder like that to have somebody who like knows you and is accessible to talk to about it, because it can feel all the information out there can feel really overwhelming sometimes.
Well, and I'll tell you this story. I feel really bad. This has happened a long time ago, and hopefully this person isn't listening. But I had a patient, and we were working on stuff, and he came in one day, and he goes, "I had all the paper, like he printed stuff off the internet, and he's like, I have something called sciatica." And he's like, "So what are we gonna do about it?" And I was like, "Oh, well, we've been treating that for the last month, so I'm glad you're on board."
Right.
And I was like, so then I was like, I went back to myself, and I was like, clearly I need to do better education. Because I was like, oh, how does he not know?
Right.
So I feel like for me, it was a good lesson of like, I need to educate the patients better. So that's why a lot of it is like, what do we need to focus on for you? Yes, we want to always be addressing goals and strength building and doing all these things and protecting your spine. But sometimes that education component is like, let's review your desk. Let's review what you
Right.
have. Like, I would rather you send me your questions
Yeah.
than you just trying, because there is so much out there and everybody's a keyboard warrior, right?
Right.
Everyone has the cure.
And the thing is, sometimes people are right, but I
Mhm.
want to check with you for same with, if somebody sends me some kind of crazy poll thing, then I'm going to check with
Mhm.
Lindsay, the pole studio owner.
Yeah.
It's like if somebody is telling me like, oh, for your body, like
Mhm.
for pain, for this, for that, I'm like, well, I have
Mhm.
someone who I've been working with for a long time that I
Mhm.
can check that with. And I think that that's been really helpful for me.
No, and I appreciate it. So again, I've just been really proud. Like your progress has been
Thank
amazing.
you.
Like we went from like you were having a little bit of foot drop, and now you are doing like
Hmm.
all these crazy stuff. Your cartwheels are amazing, which I feel like was just a gift anyway.
Yeah.
But like, so I mean, she does all the things. So you do dance, you do lollipop, you do lyra, you do pole, like just starting to do acro,
Yeah.
and like so just all these things. And it was basically like almost like a year ago. You were
Yeah.
like, I can't walk, I can't like again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was. I think it's been about a year and a half since I was started really, really having a
Mhm.
lot of sciatica problems.
Mhm.
And now like I had a fluke a couple months ago where I kind of pinched something and I
Uh-huh.
knew like right away to let Tracy know and then, do what I needed to get.
Mhm.
So I think that's important to like sometimes if I'm like working on something, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, so I'll never have any problems again.
Uh-huh.
But there are going to be times that you have like hiccups, and it's a lot
Mhm.
easier if you have people that you've been working with that know
Mhm.
what's going on rather than having to go find somebody else.
Well, and you were really smart about it too. Like again, as hard as it was during that time, you also had to cancel a performance,
Hmm.
which
Oh, that's right, I did.
yeah, and I always feel terrible. Like my goal is always like patch him
I
out and
did
get him
have
out there,
to.
But the smarter thing was to not have you perform
Right,
while you were healing. So
right,
I mean, I felt really bad, but it was better to like get you through that because there are bigger goals for you to be able to
right.
compete and do this other stuff. Because I think like it was kind of Christmassy time and
Yeah, that was a few months ago.
yeah. So, my other question is then just like what like so say someone starts having these things, like what is your recommendation or like I guess just more words of advice for people or like someone who's in starting to feel the things that you did.
I would say like don't wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I knew that something had happened in 2019.
Uh-huh.
And but I was like I said, divorced and then COVID
Mm-hmm.
and all of this stuff. So I didn't start even
Mm-hmm.
addressing it, I don't think, until late 2022.
Okay.
So I just let it go for 3 years. And
Mm-hmm.
during that time it was COVID. So I was doing a lot of like online yoga, and I now know I'm like hypermobile, but I was just like sinking into splits for like
Mm-hmm.
5 or 10 minutes a day and just really like overstretched myself. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think I would just kind of tell people, if you are doing like online workout videos and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that you have someone in person
Mm-hmm.
who you're talking to, even if it's virtually. Like my contortion coach is virtual and she can
Mm-hmm.
tell things that like I don't even know I'm doing.
Right.
But I think it's important, if you are really like trying to get into
Mm-hmm.
something, or if you were like have a history of injuries, or you're like starting to get a little bit older, to have somebody you're talking to about it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I know now, like, if I would have told you or if I would have told any of my like dance or contortion teachers the stuff I was doing, they would have been like, no, 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 like,
Uh-huh.
don't do that. And not that somebody was necessarily telling me to do that online. I was just like doing split series
Mhm.
online and then just sinking into them. So
Right.
I think it's important to remember that, like, to care for your body and to like get other people's opinion on stuff like that.
Well, and that is the hardest part. Like the good and the bad of like the Instagram world and everything being on the internet is that there's so much information, right? Then a lot of it is like you pick a program. Like I could go online and be like split series, and I
Right.
pick something, and I'm like, I'm gonna be at home. I'm gonna do this,
Hmm.
right? And then there's nobody watching me. Like, and you create content, right? And you put it out there with a disclaimer of like,
Hmm.
I'm not, I haven't actually seen you or whatever. Even when I put my PT videos, I'm like, here's some recommendations, but
Right.
like, please call and don't do this painful. But it does, and I have to give Akko super good credit because sometimes even telehealth for me with people, I'm trying to
Yeah.
watch their
No, she
stuff.
can always see. Yeah.
Right. So like that Akko Waller is her contortion
Yeah.
coach, who's also amazing.
Yeah.
But so I think that's the hardest part is like a lot of times you'll Google a condition, you'll
Hmm.
see certain exercises, you try them out at home, and then you're like, why didn't this work? And so
Right. And just doing too much of it. I think that's
Mhm.
always kind of been historically a problem for me. So, just if you are getting into something new or
Mhm.
getting back into something, like doing it maybe with people
Mhm.
that you trust and not like way overdoing it.
And then you had also said that like how I guess almost gaining that confidence to not let it limit what you were actually
Yeah.
going to do. Because sometimes the problem is we get this condition and then we're like, oh, well, I guess I'll never um, be able to do
Hmm.
whatever. So, or a lot of times we always are like, some of my friends that I've ran into, they're like, well, I can't do pull till I get stronger. I can't do this
Yeah.
till I get.
People tell me that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
People tell me, especially because I am like a more full figured woman, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm open about the fact that I pull. Like, it's on my Facebook, and I have friends from the hospital I work out on my Facebook, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times there will be like women who are like more similar to my size being like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to lose a little bit of weight before I can like come to it. I'm like, no, you don't. That's
Mm-hmm.
how, first of all, losing weight isn't the goal, but like if that is your goal, like that's
Mm-hmm.
how you do it, is by
Right.
finding something you really love. And so I think it's important not to let like your own limitations, whether it's like confidence in like what your body can do or how you
Mm-hmm.
look. Like I wore a two-piece in this routine and I was really self-conscious about it. Like Alex, my
Uh-huh.
coach, I bought another costume. Like I
Oh,
literally
okay.
bought a
Uh-huh.
leotard and shorts, and she was like, I'm not
Yeah.
letting you. Like,
Right.
this is important for you to show your body and be proud of
Mhm.
it and what it can do. And
Mhm.
I'm really glad that I did it, but I think it
Mhm.
is important, like, to not be your own harshest critic, like
Mhm.
physically with your appearance or like with what your body can do. Cause yeah, that's how you get strong.
Right. And I do find that a lot of people do like again, it's always if I need to lose like so much whatever amount of weight or I need to be this strong before I can do it. And I'm like, no, we just start building these goals and like finding some stuff and then sometimes you surprise yourself. Half the exercises I think sometimes I challenge you with, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I could do it.
Yeah.
And not realizing like how much stronger you
Yeah.
are getting. So I don't know. I did like that method. I didn't realize you had bought a one piece just in case. But I was like, what? I think I've seen your routine in like
Yeah.
a two piece, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna rock
Yeah.
it.
There was
So,
a backup, which I'll use it, of course. But
and obviously, it's always good to have a backup outfit just
right.
in case
Right.
things go bad. But,
I think too, another thing
hmm
that's helpful for me,
hmm
um, and like some people will hate
hmm
on you like at the gym or whatever if you do this, but fuck them.
hmm
Sorry.
you're fine. Every
Um,
time it's me on the podcast,
it's lit-
it's labeled explicit.
okay. um, but to film
hmm
yourself to like check your form,
hmm
so many times like I will
hmm
think that like my form is good, and then I will look and like my feet are like this,
hmm
or like my arms aren't even on something, and so then I can go back and correct it. So I think
hmm
it's good for that, but it's also really cool because then you can look back like as
see
you get
progress.
stronger and really see the
hmm
progress that you've made. But I think for me, like I'll send Tracy like videos of me lifting
hmm
because I'm insecure about my form with that. And
hmm
it's really helpful to have those videos to see kind of what's working.
Well, and I encourage that with most of my patients is to record because couple of things. One, it tells me what their goals are, what they're doing, and then it also helps me see, like, same thing with Akko, like maybe, oh, this is why you're not getting into it. This is what we need to do. This, so I appreciate that. So I always see that like pole dancers are really good about like filming a gazillion things, which is like perfect. I'm like, do you have your videos? Perfect.
I know if I go to like the location on my photos, it's like your house in prowess.
Yeah.
Like,
and I'm like, okay, so I appreciate
yeah. But I
okay.
think filming is important.
Yeah. And again, it is that progress, right? Sometimes there's even like things where I've looked back and I'm like, oh, we're just seeing like the different things. And it's just, I don't know. I appreciate it. So yeah, film yourself. Don't worry about people judging you in your videos.
Yeah.
I guess I was just kind of looking if there was any other last bits of advice or just even things that you're like that you've noticed on your journey or even going through PT and all of your journey with pole, like anything that has helped you.
I think like community is really important. I think like um really quick little like side pivot. There's this book that I highly recommend by Oprah and this like neuroscientist called What Happened to You, and it's about the way that like trauma literally like changes your brain and the way that like your brain chemicals function and stuff. And she talks about how like one of the most healing things for people who have been through something traumatic is to like move in rhythm with other people. And you can even see that like they talk historically about like drum circles and like these like our ancient ancestors had these dances and drum circles, and even like sex is another one of like being in rhythm with other people. That's like a primal like healing thing for us. And so I think for me like finding dance and having those times where I'm like in a room with like 8 or 9 other people, usually mostly women, and we're all like moving the same way, I think has been really healing for me. And it makes it easy to kind of have those like valuable and vulnerable friendships. And so I just think that if more people knew that, they would maybe be less self-conscious about it, that it's kind of like a healing thing for everybody involved, not like people are trying to show out necessarily, even if
well, sometimes it's nice. I guess they always talk about finding your tribe, right? So it's nice to kind of go into a thing and then like people are like, oh, hey, so and so. Like, I even just went to class the other night just to do the dance class. And I walked in and people were like, hey, you know? And that's just something nice, even though I'm trying to sneak to the back. And nobody sees me. But then I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm here where I know people. But they're all generally fairly welcoming and everyone was like, so it's nice to have that. It gives you that sense of community, a sense of belonging. It motivates you to want to go do the things. So I think that's important too. So I'm excited to actually see where your journey goes.
Thank you, me too.
And again, even with all that, we'll just kind of go like we still also kind of monitor. So there's still things we monitor. There's still treatments like that we keep up with and with the flare-ups and the things. But obviously the goal is further and further apart. More love for your spine, getting stronger, and just reaching other goals.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode of the State of Healthcare podcast. We hope that we were able to gain some valuable information or at least some insight into what goes into some of these conditions from this patient's story. Please feel free to like, always share. Please follow us online at Better Fit Therapy. And again, if there's any conditions or things that we haven't addressed or that you might find interesting, you can always message us online and we'll be willing to investigate. But again, taking your own healthcare into your hands is probably the most important lesson that you can learn from this. So unfortunately, in the state of healthcare that we're in now, you do have to fight for the things that are important. We encourage you to take a more active role in your healthcare and be able to participate so that we can fix this system where we're at now. Thank you again and have a good day.